this actually goes live, and then you guys quote tweet it, retweet it, whatever the vibe is. Let me grab this link.
We're live. And you're pushing the 7-day free. Is that right?
Works for me. This time
Something
of year,
about this
just,
camera.
Yeah. Looks good. Everybody looks good.
My skin color looks super orange on my computer.
Not to me.
I appreciate
Now
it.
it does. Now when
It
you
looks-
lean forward.
It's
Yeah,
definitely,
you got to find the middle ground.
there's definitely a science to it.
So when are we live?
We're live right now.
We're live,
What are we
live.
live on? Twitter?
Twitter and YouTube.
Cool.
Yep. Okay, you guys should get the stream link or the tweet tag right there.
All right.
Yeah,
Let's
see,
if
it-
I can-
Link underneath.
Hello,
Y'all still-
stream.
Can y'all still see me?
No.
No.
Oh crap! I was just trying to retweet this.
Well, get your
We're
retweet
in no
in, and
rush.
then
Yeah.
then take your time.
We'll let the chat develop here. Guys, drop some questions in the chat. Drop some Big Ten plays. We might tell you. We might not.
I've already
Nice
got
slate.
5 winners picked out, so you're gonna have to be pretty persuasive.
I for sure got one official play on this beautiful Big Ten slate.
Beautiful is one word to describe this slate.
I just try to remind myself that if this was like a Tuesday in April, we'd love it. You know.
Oh yeah. Foaming at the mouth. Don't take any Saturday for granted.
Hey, I'm watching. I've got Maction teed up tonight, so I mean,
There's some good SEC football on this weekend too. I hate to say it. I hate to mention that 3-letter word on this program, but you know there are some interesting matchups south of the Mason-Dixon line this weekend.
there certainly is.
Okay, let me fire this off. I can't talk and chew gum at the same time, so once I
All right,
fire
I'll
this
be
off,
right
I'll
back.
show you
I
good to go.
got to retweet.
We'll be here when you
wait to
return.
Retweet after the show.
What are we looking for? There it is. What's up, chat? Everybody give us a sec. Let's get our ducks in a row.
Banna's in the chat. Missed that,
go.
man. We got to get Banna on the stream.
He did the home run derby stream. It was one of the most electric nights we've had.
I know,
On
and
Duck
now he's
Club's Twitter.
done. What are we doing? Who's in
Yeah.
charge of our streaming?
I know, right?
Shame.
Okay, boom.
Let me know when you fire
All right.
that tweet off, Coop.
The one you just sent.
Yeah, if you fired it off, we're good to go. I know you had to. I bet you did.
Guys, if you're already in here,
Oh, you had the wrong sports profit, Sheer.
Ruh-roh.
There's too many sports profits. That's the one issue with your handle.
Hey, I was the first.
I know. And the best. Now I'm sure I did the wrong one too.
yeah, you did.
Compounding mistakes, I'm afraid. Oh, it's like, oh no, I did the right one. Look at that handsome devil with the cigar in his mouth.
Yep.
I know, Ball.
You do have a legendary profile picture.
I think that
What's
was
this-
after that was after Georgia TCU, and I hit all the alt spreads on Georgia.
Oh.
High as they could go.
You knew.
That one wasn't that crazy.
It's been a while since there's been an interesting national title game. A lot of
It
good
really
semifinal
has.
games.
There's been
But-
some great semifinals.
With all the talk about how the playoff has been a positive for college football, which it certainly has been, the national title games have been snoozers way more frequently than they've been compelling.
I'm okay with it. I mean, but obviously, I'm definitely a proponent for the 12 team. I've heard some arguments either way. I just think, you know.
Oh,
it's a
what
volume thing.
arguments against? I mean, Anyone who's against it is a total square. Even if it ends up being 1 versus 2 every year, you've just introduced 10 new interesting television episodes. That's what this is all about, giving us more stuff to watch.
I'll tell you what's really like, you know, romantic for me, I guess, from a college football perspective. I love the home field advantage aspect of the new format. I mean, I think it's to me what college football is all about. You're literally hosting an elimination college football playoff game on your campus. I mean, I don't think it gets any more electric than that. So that's going to be awesome.
Especially because these are non-traditional matchups we're going to be seeing, right? Like, I think, man, the one matchup that really caught my eye was in the, if the playoff started today bracket that we got on Tuesday, was like Notre Dame going to Happy Valley to play at Penn State. Like, under no circumstances would that game ever happen, but it would happen in this 12-team playoff world. Like, that is such a cool game. That is like, college football hardo's dream. Yeah, I would love to see Notre Dame go play at Bloomington. What are some? Let's start here. Let's get the chat warmed up. Some of these, the first ever 12-team bracket show. That was the most consequential news, I think, in the entire country yesterday. What are some of the spiciest takes or like most interesting matchups that you're looking forward to, Coop? Give me a second to pull it up.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing.
I'm sure I just Googled CFP bracket, and it will give me some good stuff. But the one that jumped off the page to me was Notre Dame at Penn State for sure. The other matchups would be Boise State at Ohio State, Bama at Texas, Indiana at Tennessee. Are any of those like particularly compelling to you? Or if you're in the chat, please sound off.
I mean, Boise State, that's always going to be fun. Although I'm seeing, what is this from? I'm seeing Boise State 9 at 8 Tennessee. Is this like this isn't right, is it?
Maybe that's like a projection. What I'm looking at is the actual rankings.
That was a projection. Yeah, I knew that didn't feel right.
Didn't pass the sniff test.
Yeah. Okay. So, if I'm not mistaken, because I've heard two different things. Are the first 2 rounds home field advantage? Is it 12?
First one
Second
round
round's neutral.
Just okay. So second round, we're actually going to bowl games, and they're going to label them bowls at neutral sites. Okay, gotcha. So first round is going to be home field. I mean, yeah, I'd like to see what would potentially be intriguing for me is like Boise. Let's say Boise climbs up and they end up like the 10th best team, or no. Let's say they get as high as 7. That means they could host. I'd love to see Boise host like a big time Power Four program.
Ole Miss at Boise State in the playoff
so
game.
That would be a blast. I think Boise obviously, they can't really hang with anybody that can throw a forward pass, but I'd still like to see it. And kind of on that same thought train, selfishly, I'd prefer to see like an Army or somebody else in instead of Boise. I don't think Boise's hang to built. They're not built to really hang. They've got big physical defensive backs that know how to come up and tackle Mountain West teams, but they can't cover. So
people forget they went 60 minutes with the Oregon Ducks early in the year before Oregon really put it all together. But
that's a good point.
That was probably, outside of the Buckeyes, that was their toughest out so far this year.
It's a good point. I still think Oregon's a little overrated, but they're obviously a good team.
Ooh, that's a spicy take. We'll cover that later.
I'll tell you who my best team in the Big Ten is at the end of the show.
Wow. Stay tuned, listeners. All right, let's get to it, huh? Now that we're properly warmed up, it is my distinct pleasure and actually honor to introduce the man you all know as the Prophet. I know him as one of the first 15 cappers that took the leap and agreed to set up a Dub Club account. Talk about a true believer and an early adopter, a.k.a. a real one. He's also, I'm hearing, sharp as a tack with respect to college football. 60.5% win rate over the past 5 years. Correct me if I'm wrong, Prophet, but that kind of record over that period of time probably goes toe-to-toe with anyone on God's green earth. I'm absolutely thrilled that you chose to join us on this fine Wednesday evening. Say hello to the listeners at home.
Yeah, Lou. I mean, I tried to make an effort to come on a couple of weeks ago. Timing didn't work out, so I knew when you sent me a text yesterday, I had to jump on here with you guys.
On quite short notice, and he brought his Big Ten polo as well. Nebraska, unfortunately, not playing this week. They're sulking in shame after that performance against the Bruins last week. It's not the prettiest slate this week, but if anyone can find some value in this one, it's me and you. So let's do it. We're starting on a Friday night slugfest at beautiful Rose Bowl Stadium, Pasadena, California. The guy in the black and yellow in this stream and the camo hat is going on the road to face the upstart UCLA Bruins. UCLA's getting... Oh, uh-oh. We still got one of them. We're still in the fight.
Sorry.
UCLA is getting 5.5 points at home. It's a Friday night, 8 o'clock Central kickoff on Fox. Coop, why don't you get us started? Anything looking tasty for you in this one?
I don't know about tasty, but I did try to dig into this one and find some angles. I think it's obvious that UCLA has found their quarterback with Garbers. He's playing the best football of the season right now for the Bruins. I still don't really like UCLA. I think that they are very matchup dependent, the way that their team is built. And we saw it last week against Nebraska. UCLA's defensive line was like twice as big as the Nebraska offensive line. So like everything Nebraska wanted to do in between the tackles was just completely nullified for most of the game. I wish I had dug into that one a little deeper before that one, but obviously we have 60 plus games, every week to look at. So you do your due diligence, you do your best, but sometimes you let them fall through the cracks a little bit because UCLA was a hammer in that matchup, given the spread and everything. And obviously Sharp Money moved that number pretty quickly. Opened at like 10 last week and it ended up at like 6. So that makes sense in hindsight. But on this one, so I think for Iowa, it's going to be Sullivan at quarterback, who I actually like. He didn't have to do a whole lot last week, but I do kind of like him at the quarterback position. I like his mobility and I like his confidence. And I don't think UCLA, from the linebacker to the secondary, is like way more than he can handle. I think it's a pretty good, real good opportunity for a first start for him. My only thing is like Iowa's got to keep it balanced. They can't just run into the giant Samoans that UCLA has on the defensive front. They got to keep them honest. So I think if they let Sullivan throw the rock around a little bit, I actually like Iowa on the road laying the number. Don't know if I get to the window just because it's coaching dependent, and that makes me a little nervous.
Alex, I'll let you have the last word on this one. By the way, get to the window is like the best expression I've ever heard. Yeah. So congrats to you, Prof. That's something that's going to go get a lot of use out of by me. So you said UCLA was a clear hammer last week. I ended up being the nail. I was on the Skurs. I have been dead wrong about the Bruins over the past few weeks. This is a team that looked really horrendous early in the season and has figured it out over the past few weeks. Garbers is playing great ball. And they just look good. Like, they did not play well against Nebraska. They had a lot of stupid penalties. They did not play good situational football. And still, like, the game never really felt close. They totally outmuscled Nebraska. And Nebraska's not a bad team. I mean, it's not like they were outmuscling a Purdue or like a bottom of the barrel P4 squad. So to go into Lincoln and play like that, I thought it was an extremely impressive W. Iowa hasn't really won tough games on the road. I think it's a totally different team at home versus on the road. I think that kind of gets magnified with a young quarterback who's inexperienced as well. Bright lights, big city out in Hollywood. That being said, UCLA hasn't played that well at home. And I assume the Rose Bowl is going to be probably equal parts Hawkeye fan and Bruins fans on Friday night, if not more Iowa fans. All in, there's a lot of different ways to slice this one. I think where I'm going to go is what dorm room degenerates taught me earlier this season. I don't know if you agree with this or not, Prof. 5.5 just kind of being a fishy number. And taking the home dog that's getting that 5.5 points. UCLA's playing their best football. 5.5 is a lot of points. Iowa hasn't shown me anything on the road. I'm going to take the points. This is a game I would not be shocked if UCLA won. So if I can get the points at home, I'm taking them. Tell me where I'm wrong, Alex. I know you're sad to hear that the Hawkeyes are going to maybe not cover it this week.
Well,
But
if you're on
smarter than
UCLA,
me.
if you're on UCLA, that feels good. No, just kidding. But I mean, Sullivan only had 10 attempts last week. I still really don't know what to expect from him throwing the ball. Tim Lester dialed up some pretty easy completions for him, and I liked the way the offense was moving against Wisconsin. But yeah, I'm a little bit nervous about them on the road. I do think we'll travel well, obviously, but I kind of like the under here. I think people are becoming aware of Iowa overs this year, 8-1, which is insane. Never thought I'd see that in my lifetime. But I think they'll keep the throw tally low for Sullivan. I think they'll pound the rock, and I think defense shows up. And Sebastian Castro all the way back. Their secondary's healthy. The defense looked incredible last week. So I'm gonna go with the under, and I'll probably take, as I always do, Caleb Johnson anytime with Iowa money line, just because it's been about the freest thing I've bet this season. So yeah, I like the under a lot, and then I'll lean Iowa emotionally, but I'd probably stay away from the spread because that is a fishy number at home. So yeah, I don't hate it.
Meat and potatoes from Sheer. Last little nugget from me, and then I'll let Coop, you get a word in. I think really the only comparable matchup that UCLA has had this season to Iowa is Minnesota at home. They ended up losing that one by 4. It was similar night game. The stadium was mostly Minnesota people. Minnesota is a very run-first offense, very sound defensively. They ended up covering that week. I think UCLA has improved a lot since then. Obviously, Iowa beat the brakes off Minnesota a little bit earlier in the season. Minnesota's improved a lot as well. So that's an interesting data point to put in the back of your head. But I don't know. I think the number one reason I'm rolling with the Bruins is just 5.5 is a number that tells me bet the dog at home. You got anything for me, Coop, or should we move to the next one?
I don't have anything else for this one.
Love it. All right, we're going to Columbus, Ohio for, as Gus Johnson would call them, the world-famous Ohio State Buckeyes, playing host to the very downtrodden Purdue Boilermakers, coming off their Super Bowl, which would be a loss to the Northwestern Wildcats, and cruising towards a 1-11 season in West Lafayette. This is a very large spread, 38 points when I printed the sheet out, staying solid there at that number. The total's at 53.5. Profit, get us started. Anything at all tempting you towards that counter, towards the window?
I don't have a whole lot for this one. I will continue to tell anybody that'll listen. I do think this is and I'm not saying that Ohio State's going to lose this game against Purdue, but what I'm saying is they're a beatable Ohio State team. I was much higher on this team going into the season than I am right now. I just don't know if all the pieces defensively have come together. I think Will Howard, when he plays a really good defense, is going to make mistakes just like he did last week against Penn State. I think that continues not against Purdue, obviously, but when they do play big time competition. Ohio State defensively is middle of the pack. When you start to dig into the analytics defensively, defensive line yards allowed, stuff rate, obviously they are number one in the Big Ten in points per play allowed. But a lot of that is playing with the lead, too. So I might just take one number that popped up on this game that I was like, yeah, I could see it. Like Ohio State just played Penn State. So clearly textbook letdown spot. You're playing Purdue. These are college kids. It's hard to get way up every single week. Purdue's first half team total is at a half a point. So Purdue's got a pretty good kicker. He's 8 for 10 this year and has not missed an extra point. Hasn't missed at 40 yards or further. So give me the Purdue team total in the first half to go over a half a point, -120.
That is why you're the best. What a value find from the Prophet in an absolute stinker of a matchup.
It could be a goose egg, though. I mean,
you never know. That's why they play the games. That's why they call it gambling. I hate playing huge spreads like this, but I made a promise to you as Americans to play 5 games against the spread every week in the Big Ten slate. And there's only 6 games this week, and I hate this one less than I hate the Ducks game. I'm taking the points. 38 is just an infinity number.
wow.
And it is a letdown spot. And I also think it's like a Purdue. We're officially in Ryan Walters coaching for his job mode. And like losing by 3 scores to Ohio State is the kind of performance where it's like, okay, give them another year, even if they do lose by a ton. So I don't think they're going to pull the starters when Ohio State does in the top of the fourth quarter. So I hate doing it, but I'm taking the points and just hoping that Ohio State is sleepwalking, coming off a huge W in Happy Valley, and Purdue kind of uses this as a legacy game for the coach. I mean, Purdue's put a shock in Ohio State a few times in the not-so-distant past when they were, Jeff Brom, okay.
Yeah.
But obviously they're down in the dumps. Means kind of nothing for this matchup. But I'm taking the points. Sorry. Sure, you got anything for us, or should we just move on from this stinker?
I mean, I am just looking at 92% of the money on Purdue to cover here.
Really? That makes me want to go the other way so bad.
Via Bet MGM as of now. I'm sure that'll move. But no, honestly, Prof, I'm telling you, that is just going to be a fun bet. Give me 1 point. That's a fun bet. I'm going to tell you on that.
Just give us a turnover inside.
I feel like a
Ohio
special
State's
teams
30.
big play, like a punt return to the 27, and we go, 3 and out, but we get points. That's what I'm rooting
And then
for.
we're trusting college kickers, baby.
Nothing. That'll take a couple years off of your life. Okay, enough of that game. Let's move to a real marquee matchup between the Minnesota Golden Gophers and the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Don't look now. Minnesota said they were the best 2-3 team in the nation, or 1-3 team in the nation way back when, and they haven't lost since PJ Fleck puffed out his chest and said that. Won a very, very fun, competitive game last week on the road in Champaign. Getting on the bus again to head to the boardwalk in New Jersey. Rutgers off a bye and a pretty one-sided affair. A loss to USC last time they played. They're getting 6 points at home. The total is sitting at 46.5. Kind of a classic Big Ten spread and total. Prof, anything you want to wet your whistle on this game?
Yeah, I've got a lean for this one. So yeah, you mentioned Minnesota's won 4 straight. Rutgers, they've lost 4 straight. I don't want to trust Rutgers because it's not a team I really trust right now. However, I will trust Greg Schiano to get the boys fired up and play really hard. And I know what kind of matchup we're going to get. These two teams, they're both going to be under center, a lot of power eye, a lot of run heavy first and second down approaches. Minnesota's strength is stopping the run. I think Rutgers can dial it in and do the same thing to Minnesota. I think this is a match made in heaven for an under. So I'm looking at the under 46.5.
Oh,
I think it's
Prophecy. I know why this guy is 60.5% lifetime, or at least for the last 5 years. Sheer, I'm going to let you go in here next.
I'm on the same side. I wish I could give you guys something spicier, but I'm also on the under, and I feel like the inconsistency of their quarterback. I don't know if they're going to be able to dial anything up if that run does get stopped, which it probably will.
You're talking about
they have that one
McManus, the quarterback you don't trust, or the Minnesota guy, Brosman?
I really don't trust either, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But Minnesota does have one weapon at receiver. If they can get him the ball a little bit, potentially, but that's a lot of contingencies. So I lean under as well.
Yeah, this is actually an interesting matchup. I'm going to watch this game. I was super high on Rutgers early in the year. They went on the road and won in Virginia Tech. They had that fun Friday night victory against UW. And then they've just been laying egg after egg at home, on the road. I can't bet them at this point. I know Shiano's a good coach, but I have to imagine something's broken somewhere in the program right now. I think these like transfer quarterback things can just not work sometimes halfway through the season. I mean, the one storyline that no one's talking about, Kaliak Manis was the quarterback in Minnesota for like 5 years, as far as I can remember. Yep. So this is kind of a revenge legacy game for him. Knowing PJ Fleck, I think he's going to be like very petty about that storyline as well and get the guys like taping his frickin' face to the locker room. This guy left us, blah, blah, blah. Trying to get the defense real piss and vinegar heading into the game. So whenever there's a storyline involved, I kind of like betting with PJ Fleck. I'm going with the Gophers. That's a team that's gotten a lot better throughout the season. Rutgers seems to be a team that's gotten a lot worse throughout the season. So I'm gonna have this be a momentum trade, and ride with PJ Fleck and his tie.
You know, we also had part of the reason was we had Alpha Dog, shout out Alpha, in our ear going Rutgers over and over, and we just started believing in the hype, and that's a bad road to go down. Yeah, he's great at it.
Fun fact, Rutgers has not won a football game since he appeared on this live stream. So
is that
until he appears again, I don't think Rutgers is going to win. You're looking at a 4-8 season in Piscataway.
Come on, Alpha.
Okay, we talked about a team that has won 4 in a row in Minnesota. We talked about a team that has lost 4 in a row. Now let's talk about a team that has won 9 in a row. One of the last unbeaten teams in college football. Dare I say it's a football school in Bloomington. The Fightin' Signettis. 14-point favorite against the Mighty Men of Michigan. On what planet do we currently preside? How in the world did that happen? This is the CBS Big Ten Game of the Week, 2:30 Central kick. Huge game. Indiana wins this game. For my money, they're locked into a playoff spot. 14-point favorite. Total sitting at 49.5. Sports Profit, get us started. I can tell just by the way you're nodding your head right now, you've got some action in this one.
Yeah, I mean, this is the new era of college football. You know, this is NIL and transfer portal, and this is the only way you can do this. This is the only way you can take a bottom feeder in a conference and become one of the best, if contending for a championship. Right? You got to have the transfer portal. We already saw Signetti do it at James Madison. We had prolonged success there. Brought a bunch of his players, brought his whole staff. Got Curtis York from Ohio, who clearly was like not himself last season because of that ACL repair, and he looks like he's back to 100%. He might be a pro. Curtis York looks really good. He's big. He's really smart. His brother actually, I know he was in Canada. He was in the CFL, like was maybe a league MVP, and I think maybe he's a backup in the NFL. I can't remember. I think he was at Jacksonville. I can't remember. Anyways, here's the deal with this game. Indiana, respect what they're doing. I love it. I mean, they are legit. But at some point, you got to look at yards per play and turnover margin and fortune, and it doesn't last forever. And they're going to have a hiccup game. They're ninth in turnover margin in the country. This defense is a havoc defense. Like, that's their entire MO, is just create as much havoc as possible, get up the field as fast as possible, and just play with your hair on fire. And it's fun. It's really fun to watch. But they actually haven't been that good against the run this season, and they've played with the lead so much that we haven't really seen anybody be able to expose a very fast defensive front that's not necessarily that great against the run. So I think Michigan potentially has a recipe to make this game really ugly. You know, the tempo is not there for Michigan. They're one of the slowest plays per second teams in the country. I think if we can trust the Michigan coaching staff, which is always a big if, right? It's kind of the cherry on top of any wager you want to make. I will be looking at Michigan plus 15 to make this game really ugly. Still have one of the most talented offensive and defensive lines in college football. So if they'll just make it ugly, throw a screen here and there, don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, have some sort of a game plan. I like them to cover it and potentially even make this a really close game.
It's such an interesting angle, and I love hearing you break it down. I'm going to skip to the punchline, and then I'll do the epilogue after. Indiana's a covering machine. It just works. It just does. I came on this program last week. Every single week I have bet on Indiana. No matter what the spread is, it's the first thing I do on my little sheet. Indiana, lay 'em. Minus 6.5 on a road, no problem. Quarterback's not playing, no problem. Two touchdown favorite against the defending national champion that they've literally never been a favorite against, and they probably won 3 times in the last 50 matchups. No problem. I'm becoming a Hoosier fan because my fiance is an alum. If she is listening to this program and she heard me bet against them, I would be in trouble. So I'm laying them.
Fair enough.
With respect to your commentary, I think it's very interesting. My counterfactual, I don't even know if that's what that word means in this context, but I think the other game script that has a very real probability of happening, and what I know Signetti was stewing over all weekend, was how bad they looked in the first quarter in East Lansing. I think he's going to empty the chamber in terms of starting this game fast. That was the first time all year that they had trailed, and they were totally sleepwalking. Rourke had missed a game. He just had surgery on his hand. So I think the boys are going to be super duper up for this game. They have a bye after this week, and they got a little, I think, touched the stove a little bit in terms of sleepwalking at the start of last week. I think Indiana really wants to beat Michigan. I think Bloomington's going to be freaking nuts. A lot of kids who go to Indiana wanted to go to Michigan before Michigan told them not to. They weren't welcome there. There's from a football perspective, it's not really a rivalry at all, but I think the student body is going to be unbelievably up for the game. You can't get in the stadium for less than $250, is what ESPN.com is telling me. So the counterfactual to, okay, Michigan makes it ugly early would be Indiana starts fast and Michigan has to play from behind. And now Signetti is in fucking style points mode. And we know he loves doing that, especially after they get ranked 8 in the first CFP poll, which doesn't make sense to me. Probably has been really good bulletin board material in the locker room. So I like your game script. I think it could be a thing, but I think there's alt reality that I'm hoping happens on Saturday. But we can be on opposite sides of this one as esteemed colleagues. Sheer, you're itching. Let me shut up.
I am itching. I'm all over the under. We're supposed to get rain. And Prof, I like your game script there. I do think Michigan has to bring them into the mud and play their game. I really like that. Lou, you are making a convincing argument about Cignetti using that as some fire in the locker room and how slow they started last week. But I love the under, and this is going to be a game I live bet. I will probably look at potentially, if Indiana starts with the ball, maybe gets a score here, getting a couple extra points, trying to get it up to 17 maybe for Michigan. But I'll be taking the under pregame, and then I'll be live betting. Probably taking the under even more so if they score early. So, I love it. Let's go in the mud.
Sheer is the king of the live bets on this program. Okay, speaking of a place where it rains frequently, let's head to the Pacific Northwest. What a freaking segue. Oh, by the way, Sports Profit, speaking of segues, you can tell the guy's incredibly sharp. He's dialed in. He doesn't just cover Big Ten college football plays. He covers it all. 7 days free. Check out the link in the comments. One of the longest tenured cappers on Dub Club, one of the most highly respected guys in the space. Subscribe, link in comments. Check him out. Back to the Pacific Northwest. Oregon dominating, workmanlike, backdoor cover on the road last week. They head home. 25. Try that again, Lewis. 25-point favorite. Numbers holding firm there against the Maryland Terrapins, making the cross-country trip to Oregon. They just got absolutely thrashed on the road last time they played against Minnesota. I believe they had a bye week in between. Anything piquing your interest here, Sports Profit?
Yeah, I would probably look towards the over on this one. Check the weather. Like you said, it's always rainy. I don't mind rain for overs. You just don't want wind and slop and, lightning delays. I don't know what the stats are on lightning delays coming out of the locker room after a 3-hour delay, but it can't be great for an over because I think we've all been there and we're like, the over's screwed now. I like the over in this one. I just think the spot is it looks like a free flowing spot, right? So for Oregon, just played, Michigan at home. They played Michigan at Michigan, dropped 38 on a talented Michigan defense. After this game, they've got Wisconsin and Washington to end the season. So Maryland here, this is a Maryland team that seems kind of like lost a little bit as far as what their team identity is. They're just kind of like, we got some talent here, we got some here. We're going to try this week. We're going to try this next week. But I think they can score because I don't think this is a game that Oregon is like balls to the walls flying around for. I think Maryland contributes enough. They've had some good offensive production this season. I think they can contribute enough. And I think this is just a free flowing game. I think this is probably like a, if Oregon, Ohio State was 110% capacity effort from both sides the whole game, this is going to be like 87% capacity. This is going to be free flowing. It's not going to be quite preseason, but it's definitely going to be a little more, lax, I guess, for lack of a better word. But I think I would look towards the over in this one. I think that no reason to think Oregon scoring doesn't continue here, and I think their offense is probably playing their best football of the season, actually.
The number's sitting at 57.5, which is a big number, especially in Big Ten country. But these are two non-traditional Big Ten teams, obviously, and they don't really play the Big Ten style. I think the most relevant precedent for this game is probably Maryland going on the road at Indiana. As an Indiana fan, I like putting Indiana and Oregon in the same category. They hung in that game. That was what you're just described, Prof. It was like free-flowing, a lot of points, not a ton of like stops in the red zone. Few takeaways were the difference in the game, and Maryland ended up losing 42-28, which would get you comfortably over your number. With that being said, I'm actually avoiding this game because we now know Dan Lanning is not too proud to do a backdoor cover. He got shit on early in the year because Michigan State backdoor covered the Ducks. And then he goes on the road in Michigan and scores a touchdown with 20 seconds left to cover a huge spread in Ann Arbor. So I just don't feel good about betting against Oregon. My lean would be Maryland because, like I said, I think it's a good matchup for them. They match up better with these more like finesse, not run the ball sorts of teams, whereas they get spanked by the Minnesotas of the world. So my lean would be on Maryland, but I'm not betting against Dan Lanning. The more I see these guys play, the more I think they're like the very clear, like true national champion favorite, like kind of how Michigan was last year, where you could tell, starting in mid-November that this team was going to go the distance. I'm starting to get that vibe with Oregon. So I just don't want to bet against them. But my lean would be on the Terps. The East to West also freaks me out. I know it's a night game, but that's a long flight. They're just kids coming off a bye. Like, are they going to be sleepwalking? Or are they going to be super duper up? And, like, this is Mike Loxley legacy game. To your point, Coop, like, that program feels totally directionless right now.
Yeah.
And he's a pretty good coach, so I wouldn't be shocked if they, like, really put a scare into the Ducks either. I'm staying away. All right, now that I talked for 5 minutes and gave you no action, Alex, bail out the listeners. Give us something.
I do have some in this game. 9 o'clock start for Maryland, 6 o'clock game, 9 o'clock start for them traveling. I like the first half. I like Oregon. I saw it at 12.5. And now FanDuel 13.5. I think Oregon will come out hot, but I do think there's a chance in the second half that defense kind of just starts to. Maybe it's a 3rd and long, and they let up a big play in the second half, and they sneak it in there. I like first half. I like it a lot more if you can get it down, but anything under 2 touchdowns I'll probably take. So I like the first half play there.
For the Ducks.
Ducks, yes.
Who was it? Was it last week they were saying Oregon first half is like a hammer every week kind of play?
Oh no, is it square? Are people?
No. It was a sharp person. It was a guest on this program. Sharps only.
Nice.
Okay, we just talked about East going West. Now let's talk about West going East. Washington, really interesting game last week at home, beating the Trojans, getting Miller Moss fired. Impressive W. They're knocking on bowl eligibility, sitting at 5-4. They head to Happy Valley for the first time as a conference nemesis. Penn State coming off extremely Penn State-y loss at home to the Buckeyes. Fan base is in shambles. They're 13-point favorites. The total sitting at 46.5. Is Franklin getting off the schneid, or is this another close game at home against a pretty good Washington team? Prophet, you start us off. You're our leadoff guy.
Yeah, I told you I'd tell you who I think the best team in the Big Ten is this season. I think it's Penn State.
Wow, that's spicy.
The problem about this game is that I think Washington is really good too.
That's spicier.
And so Washington's undervalued. Penn State is undervalued. I like to bet a team that's undervalued against a team that's overvalued, obviously, right? I mean, that's the name of the game. So I don't know if I'll be able to bet this game. I think Penn State wins. But, dude, Jed Fish at Washington, he's got a great coaching staff. He's got Baby Belichick, licking his chops, calling the defense up there. And they've come a long way this season. I don't really think they have the personnel necessarily. They're physical at the line of scrimmage defensively. They just don't really have the cats. They don't really have the guys in the secondary, and they're not quite there as far as being able to contend. But I do think this is a good Washington team. I mean, they should have covered against Indiana. I don't know if anybody watched that game, but there's no doubt in my mind Washington was the right side in that game. A lot of turnover fortune, and Washington outgained them by I think 40 yards, like over a yard per play. If you look at the box score on that one. So I do think Washington's good. Penn State.
Yeah, come on. You got to give us the why there after the stinker that they displayed last weekend.
It was a stinker. It certainly was. But I think this is not normal Ohio State. I think they're a half a level below.
That just beat Penn State on the road.
I realize that. I think they're a half a level below where they normally are. I think Penn State wins that game 65, 70% of the time. And yes, a lot of it does have to do with James Franklin running the same play 3 times in a row on the goal line, right? I mean, and you can go back and piece that game up and look at all these things that, that's football. I understand that. But X's and O's, personnel wise, this is a Penn State defense. This is like your normal, fantastic top 5 Penn State defense. They're going to cause turnovers. They've got NFL players in the secondary coming off the edge. That's what you got. But now you have an awesome offensive coordinator. They went to Kansas and stole Coach Leipold's, lifelong offensive coordinator. He's been with him since Wisconsin Whitewater. The two have got more national championships than Coach Saban together. So that's who's calling plays now at Penn State. And just watch how the offense operates. I mean, it's a completely different look. They got gadget guys. They got speed. The offensive line looks good. I think now you got the best defense in the Big Ten with an above average offense. And so for me, that's enough to be the best team in the Big Ten because I think they're the most complete team. Now, will James Franklin still, bite himself in the ass and in big moments? Probably.
That's a visual.
Yeah, exactly. So if James Franklin will just let it rip, I think this team can win the Big Ten and would be a legit contender to win the whole thing.
They've kind of boxed themselves out of Indy, which is unfortunate for them, but maybe fortunate. The benefits of winning the Big Ten are you get the first round bye. But if they win out against a very soft schedule and they avoid having to play a 13th game, because based on tiebreakers, I think the very obvious Big Ten title game this year will be Oregon versus whoever wins the Indiana-Ohio State game, barring anything unexpected with Ohio State or Indiana losing a game that they're a 2-touchdown favorite in or greater. So Penn State, probabilistically speaking, is, and again, they have a pretty easy road, although I think that game at Minnesota is going to be a very tough matchup for Penn State. But if they go 11-1, and maybe even if they go 10-2, they play a game in the first round. If they go 11-1, they're probably hosting. And I think a lot of what you said is correct in terms of being very talented. They made a lot of mistakes in that Ohio State game. I mean, whether it was stupid penalties or giveaways on the goal line or really play calling that was very too cute, never really got in a rhythm. Drew Aller never really threw the ball. He was running the ball a ton. I think the leading receiver in that game had 2 catches. I'm with you, Prof. I think they're a very good team. Where we disagree, I think Washington is I think they're fraudulent. They're like a bully. They beat up on the teams that are way below them talent-wise, and then when someone actually sticks them in the mouth in return, they kind of go into a ball. It's also a team that's had problems playing on the road, and they lost to Rutgers in a night game, so you can't blame the 9 a.m. Pacific kickoff time like you could at Iowa and at Indiana. But they have not won a game on the road this year, and they have not beat a team that is USC's at their talent caliber, but they're a different team at home, and I truly believe they're a little soft in the trenches, and Penn State is not. So 13 is a big number, but, I mean, Penn State's under James Franklin's pretty darn good at covering against the spread versus not top 5, top 10 teams. So I will lay the points. I'm with you generally, Prophet. I think Penn State's going to surprise some people. I think it's a very talented roster, and I think Washington's a little fraudulent, even though they're not that good. All right, Alex, take us home, brother. Give us break the tie, I guess.
I got a prop, so I'm not breaking the tie
very
here.
cool.
I know not everybody can get him down, but if you can, I'm looking at Nicholas Singleton this game. He's been in and out with some injuries this year, but I think he's really talented, and I don't know if Washington's going to be able to stop him. I know Allen has gotten the bulk of the carries, but I think Nick Singleton might be a little bit more talented. I might eat my words there, but his rushing line's sitting at 54.5 right now. I might take him to score, but I'm definitely taking his rushing yards at over 54.5. I don't think Washington's going to be able to stop him. And I think he's going to get the ball a little bit more than he has throughout this season because this is his first game where it feels like he's finally hitting a healthy stride. So I'm on Nick Singleton this week.
I'm going to spin cycle that, actually. I have no idea what the actual bet here is or the number is. Jonah Coleman is probably the most underrated tailback in the Big Ten. In a conference full of great tailbacks, this guy's got to be like in the top 5, which in the Big Ten's a big deal. And we saw last week, Penn State has trouble against the run. I mean, that was a patchwork Ohio State O-line that ran the ball 11 straight times to kill that clock in the fourth quarter and only passed the ball twice in the second half. So Penn State, for all the talent on defense, they've struggled with the run game, and Washington's got a good run game and a very talented tailback toting the rock.
His line is 70.5 as of now.
70.5?
Yes.
I would hammer the over. They won it. Well, that's probably priced as though like they're going to be playing from behind, and that's where Washington's going to be really in trouble. Is if you let the edge guys on Penn State pin back their ears, the quarterback's going to get killed, because that's not the strength of their team, pass pro. All right, we had a lot of fun breaking down a pretty ugly slate. I got a little bit smarter. You can get a little smarter. You can get some more winners from Sports Profit. 7-day free trial in the comments. Any parting thoughts, questions, comments, concern from Cooper or the chat?
No, I mean, hopefully we can do it again. I had a lot of fun, and yeah, we should do a Spaces sometime, talk some other conferences.
Love it. If it's other conferences, I can't be involved, but Alex knows everything about everything. All I do is watch Big Ten football. That's my thing. All right, this was a blast, my friend. Best of luck. Catch us up to speed on the SEC at another hour. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.